Welcome to Turn a Page, the official comic book club for Nerd Initiative. Each week, the NI Bullpen will be covering the world of comics, talking to creators, deep diving into some fantastic stories, and much more. Now let's hand it over to the team and turn a page.
And what is going on, everyone? It is Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you are tuned in to Nerd Initiative YouTube for another edition of Turn a Page, the official comic book club for Nerd Initiative. What is going on, everyone? My name is Ken M. You know me as the host of the ODPH podcast, but I'm also Nerd Initiative's comics editor-in-chief. To my left, your right, because it's in his contract, he has to do his own intro.
Coming at you live and direct straight from the ODPH studios. My name's Off the Cuff Tom, Nerd Initiative's pop culture connoisseur, Ken, Matt, and Lauren. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. And we have two guests on the show. Well, I should say one is a returning co-host, but one is making her triumphant return. You know them as the dynamic duo of Drafts and Dialogue, bringing you that pop culture knowledge you need to know each and every single week. It is Matt and Lauren from Hops Geeks News. Guys, what's going on?
Not much. I couldn't miss tonight. You're talking Wolverine. And if anybody follows our Nerd Initiative comic book reviews, they know that I have staked claim to all things Wolverine. So I had to be here.
My tribal chief. It is good to be back. Our tribal Nerd Initiative editor-in-chief. That's what we're going to call you. Our Nerd Initiative tribal chief. That's what I'm going to coin you from now on.
I still like Maestro.
I like Matt's better. It works.
We're not talking Hulk Maestro. That's a whole
different story that one day maybe we'll actually cover here on Turn a Page.
Should.
One day we will, but first and foremost, happy X-Men 97 Eve to everybody. Definitely chat, super chat, throw your vote in about what you're thinking about the season thus far. That is what's kicking off tonight's edition of Turn a Page, because we're going to break down a story that literally had everybody talking last week, but if you've been reading the comics for quite some time, you kind of knew this was going to happen, just you weren't expecting to see it on the small screen.
Hashtag Ken was right. So just so everybody knows, before last week's episode premiered, we were bantering back and forth about stuff, and everything this man said came to fruition.
Well, thank you. I mean, I don't like bragging, but you know, if
that's why I do it for you.
Yeah, like I said, we were talking about this on the ODPH podcast. And obviously, knowing what they were teasing with, because of how they've dabbled into X-Men 97 lore with the classic stories from the 80s and the 90s and merging them together, they've really put together something special to the fans that are really getting into the series and really into the X-Men lore, which obviously everybody knows with the movies and the current state of Krakoa. There's a lot of different takes on it, but this has been some of the most classic X-Men stuff that you'll check out. And definitely, if you want even more of this content, this Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Nerd Initiative, our very own Megan from the Vigilante Vibes podcast is leading the season 1 of X-Men 97 recap right here on Nerd Initiative YouTube. So you definitely want to make sure you follow the homework assignment and don't miss it if you want even more content. And we'll just go over that quick now, because obviously you want to make sure wherever you're watching, make sure hit that subscribe button, click the bell icon for notifications, and tap that thumbs up to let the bosses know that you like what you're seeing here on Nerd Initiative. Because trust us, we have a lot to deep dive in with this as well. And let us get into how we're going to break this down, because we're going to be covering X-Men 25 from 1993, the original story here by Fabian Nicieza, Andy Kubert, Matt Ryan, Joe Rojas, and Bill Oakley. This is the book that did the unthinkable to one James Howlett, a.k.a. Wolverine. And we'll start with Lauren. We're going to go around, do a spoiler-free statement about this, and then we're going to deep dive into this issue. So chat, super chat, wherever you are watching us, make your voice heard. Let's talk some X-Men 25.
Hold on. If Lauren's here as our very special guest, as our Wolverine aficionado, I think she needs to have the last say. So let's start with Matt. What's your spoiler-free?
I didn't know this comic existed till last week because I'm not very well versed in the X-Men. That's a well-known blind spot for me because there's just too much X-Men. However, Lauren actually is the one who brought this to my attention. And Lauren's Josh, I want to say shout out because he sent me a whole USB full of digital comics. And this comic book is actually on that thumb drive. So I read it. And man, have never seen Professor Xavier in this mood, if you will, and just the emotions that went through every character from Rogue to Remy to, Wolverine and Magneto, or Magnus, as he's obviously known as. And man, it was a different side of a lot of the characters, and it kind of brought a crescendo to the relationship of Magneto and the X-Men kind of to a head. And dude, it left you kind of like, whoa, what is happening? Like, my first thoughts are, is this the end of Wolverine? Even though, come on, it's never the end, but
He's no Uncle Ben.
No, there's only one Uncle Ben, still gone, except in one current series right now.
And it's and the rice kind. So as far as I'm concerned, when it came to this, I was aware of what is going to eventually happen in this book, and I think it's been 20 some odd years, so we kind of know what's going to happen. I didn't read a lot of X-Men at that particular point in time. Actually, everybody knows here, my first picking up of an X-Men comic was just a few months ago. So taking what I knew from the X-Men 97 series, because that's the reason why we're doing this, because I see a lot of comparisons in it. I was happy to see the comparisons. At the same time, it took strides knowing the mythology that I know about these characters, and I was very impressed. Ken?
Watching this unfold, and we have to remember at this time too is the 30th anniversary of the X-Men. It's 1993. They wanted to make a big statement with this Fatal Attractions storyline that was going on. That was, more or less a big crossover, but it's not one that we think of like when we talk about, Days of Future Past, or we talk about Executioner's Song, or one of those great X-Men stories. To see this, I'm going to throw the cover back up here a little bit. You can see that they were really pushing these hologram covers. And that's why above Fatal Attractions, it's kind of like a little gray spot here. But during this time, they really wanted to go for something big. And in each of the X-Men books at this time, they really were pushing this. And we did see that in Uncanny X-Men, Magneto was already making his presence felt, because we had just seen him come off the pages of Chris Claremont and Jim Lee's X-Men 1 from 1991. And to see him come back in this big favor, it was one that, as we were watching as fans, he really stepped his game up, and he was really like, I'm done being nice. I'm done being, the doormat to humanity. He really wanted to drive the point home about, like, this is the vision, Charles. Wake up. And in the Uncanny X-Men edition of this, he actually winds up recruiting Colossus to join him with his acolytes, which is unheard of at the moment. So when you're seeing all this unfold in the different books and just Magneto's rise to power here against Charles Xavier, like, you have that sense that this is building into something. When you get to this issue, that's when it really hits home, because they don't hold anything back. And we talk about, swinging for the fences. They literally throw everything in this issue that you could think of and really make this a definitive showdown between the Children of the Atom and Magneto. And it really resonates when you're picking up this issue, because when you get to that page where the moment happens, you're literally like, oh my God, they did that. And it absolutely floored me. Yeah.
Visceral feeling, the way it's coming through his wounds. It's like you cringe.
Oh, absolutely. Lauren?
Well, obviously you said I'm the Wolverine aficionado, but I was late to the game. Like, I didn't read these originally in the 90s. So, like, what Matt's saying that I, told him about this, it's because when I first got into the comics, before I started reading comics, I literally got a book from Barnes & Noble that was Wolverine. And so I read about this. I had known that Magneto had ripped the adamantium from his bones. When I read this, oh, good Lord, it's been 20 years now. Today was the first time I read the actual comic book. But this story is really not about Wolverine. That's just the moment that makes us all cringe and be like, oh my gosh, what is happening? But I think what I really loved about this was seeing Xavier done with everything, and seeing that Xavier had to unteach his X-Men everything he's put into them, because he doesn't see any other way to defeat Magneto and has to go against everything he believes in as well. And so, like, this, I thought this was a fantastic comic. I very much so enjoyed reading it. And it's very low about Wolverine. It's really not much about Wolverine at all until the end. I did then go and read Wolverine 75 right after I read the X-Men 25 today, because I needed I knew Wolverine was okay, but I needed to see Wolverine okay.
I still don't believe that he is okay. To me, it's like, oh God, like until I see my baby boy like actually talking and being his normal self again, like seeing him just in that page or that shot where it's being ripped from his body and you just the pain, he's still gonna, it doesn't matter if he heals. Like he, Jean was even like she's blocking his mind. And I know we're jumping ahead a little bit, but man, it's absolutely brutal, dude. It is just brutal.
But every time
Yeah.
he pops his claws, he feels that, and I feel like we forget that. Like, he's not numb to pain, he just heals quick.
Yeah, it's one of those moments that you forget about, but once you see this all unfold, especially building to that moment, it really throws everything off because as this issue begins, you're seeing the Magneto has definitely made his impression felt across the world. You're seeing Nick Fury get feel the pressure. You're seeing Washington D.C., Moscow. Like this is really becoming a world event that's taking place because Magneto, like we say, is done messing around. And then when you get to this page, right off the
So
bat,
beautiful.
yeah, Andy
Yeah.
Kubert's art in this, just how amazing. And
So good.
yeah, and literally this is where he does the electromagnetic pulse that shuts down the world. So what we see in X-Men 97, he does right here, but not to stop Bastion by any stretch of the imagination.
No. It's definitely takes artistic license of what they've done in X-Men 97, but the parallels you'll just pick them up as we go through this. Trust me.
Yeah, because like as this is going, I mean, Lauren, when you're watching this unfold too, and you see this moment take place where Magneto is surrounded by his acolytes, and this is being reflected on like the Marvel, universe right here. Like, what are you envisioning happening here?
I mean, I think what's interesting, and we see this in the cartoon too, is a lot of the people who follow Magneto are people he has saved. So they truly feel like this is the best. So you're just seeing like both people are just at their wits'
Yeah.
end. And it's just so fun to see and to see how the whole world is being impacted by this. But you also see like some of these are young kids and they're very impressionable. And it's a matter of who's there to listen to them and to save them and to help them find their way in this world that doesn't want them there.
Yeah. I mean, Matt, when you're seeing the Thing react about this, I mean, what are you reacting?
I want to say that I didn't realize that this is what I needed in my life, but to see the boy from Yancey Street in a towel and a cigar, like that's almost as good as a shower beer. And my Hops Geeks kids can definitely agree. A shower beer is always a well good thing. But I didn't know I needed Ben Grimm in a towel to make my day.
Upset that his bath got ruined.
That was my like initial reaction was like his first thought is blaming Reed. Like, Reed, are you messing around again, dude? I'm trying to have I don't know why it never crossed my mind that the Thing would want to enjoy the finer things of life, such as taking a hot shower, just because he's made out of rock. Like, why he still needs to get clean. I mean, he's out there fighting for justice and saving the world. Everybody needs a good cleaning, man.
It's cleanliness, man. Don't take it for granted.
No,
Oh.
exactly. And he still remembers like what it's like to do those human things. And so it's just kind of funny. He was like, Reed, what'd you do again? And come to find out it was something more serious. But to them, he has no idea for a change. He's just Reed Richards being Reed Richards.
Yeah. And that's one thing too, because like I say, Magneto is just enforcing that will, and you're just seeing the effects over the entire world. Like I say, we had that shot with Ben Grimm and Reed Richards, but this also goes to Japan with Sunfire. This also goes to England with Excalibur at the time too, which is Captain Britain's led team with Nightcrawler, and everybody's just kind of sitting there like, what is going on in this world? And then you go back to Muir Island here, and you do see that Hank McCoy is working with Banshee about like, okay, we got to figure something out here. The world has been shut down. And this is really putting like the gravity of the situation in place here because Magneto has never gone this route before. Sure, he's been a threat, but to really put this imprint on the planet, it's really taken a hold and it's really leveled up, so much here that when you get to this moment and this where we're pairing it back, this is like the ultimate setup right here, where you get Xavier to Me My X-Men and the lineup that he has staged here. I mean, Lauren, when you're seeing this unfold, like how stacked is this lineup of X-Men?
I mean, it just made me smile to see you got so many greats right there. It's just a fantastic picture other than Xavier's face is a little off. But outside of that, it's exciting.
Yeah. I mean, Matt, you're seeing this. Is there any X-Men you would have put on this team that isn't here? Because this is just like a murderer's row.
I mean, not really, because this is kind of the who's who of X-Men when you think of it, right? Like Jubilee's there, Storm, Wolverine, Rogue, Cyclops. I mean, even Silver Surfer's kind of hiding right there. Jean, Beast. This is this is like the who's who, man. And this is like I love those shot comparisons with you have Magneto and his, followers in one panel, and then we go to this page and you have Xavier, you're setting up for like this wall of death, if you will, and getting ready for just this Royal Rumble to go down.
Yeah, Tom.
It's the cartoon opening. Think about it. They're all
Yeah.
running at each other, and there's
Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. But this plays right into it because this is Xavier, and obviously with the threat being this big and Magneto being on this level, like this is where you really have to say, okay, we have to step up. We have to, find a way to stop it and really play into that because we've never seen him at this level. And you can definitely tell with the conversations that Scott is having with Charles about this, there's so much tension going on. Even when Gambit's trying to make a joke about it, it's just falling flat because they actually realize how crazy this whole scenario is playing out. Even so, to the point when Xavier's like, okay, it's time for some action. And you see this moment right here. Lauren, when you're seeing him in his exosuit, does this solidify about the danger that's taking place?
I mean, it's interesting because he rarely will do anything to jeopardize the control he has with his power. So he's sacrificing his power. So obviously this was, and they even call him out. They're like, "Hey, you're not great in the field," and he's just one of those. Well, I'm not intending to come back. So I feel like seeing that, like knew this was for him. He thought it was the end game. And it was interesting the people he was willing to put in harm's way because it was necessary. So this wasn't just I'm putting on this suit to sacrifice myself. I'm putting on this suit to sacrifice some of my X-Men too.
Yeah. I mean, when I'm seeing this, I'm just like, he's getting serious about it. And even the reaction of the team there is kind of in shock. I mean, Matt, when you're seeing this play out, like what's going through your mind?
I think that the best thing about this whole thing is that even Professor Xavier kind of has a little bit of Batman in him with the prep time because he pulls out like, I've got this plan against Magneto, and they get the suits on. And he's like, we're probably not going to come back from this one. And just to show the fact that the team's still on board with this shows the level of just heroism and how willing they're following Professor Xavier, like what he means to them.
Tom?
they did the thing. I mean, they did the thing. Think about it.
Ah, yes,
I mean,
the thing.
They did the thing.
No, the thing was in the shower.
But they did the thing in the comics. Like, well, this is where we're at. This is what we got to do. It's Avengers Assemble. It's calling the Fantastic. It's just they did the thing. They just brought everybody together. We got the job. We got to get it done. All right, let's do it. It's to me my X-Men. I mean, how much more of the thing do you need besides the thing in the shower?
Yeah, I mean it's just the craziest part of it. Like I say, when you see this all like transpire, it's just like this is how it's leveling up. And as they're deciding about like how to go about this, Xavier is pairing up the team and kind of seeing where the strengths are and really being very smart about this too, which is something that obviously dealing with the stakes that is involved, like it works and it plays out. So definitely a cool thing to see transpire. And when you start seeing this go, it really levels up and you start seeing the team get together and really, take this to the next step. And we do see this. It's kind of the quiet moment between Rogue and Gambit here too, because this has been a romance that they've been building during all of this. And it's really been something that is coming to fruition here because you could definitely tell in Rogue's words too, to paraphrase. And she's like, oh, this is... I know who he is. He's been there for me in the past, but this is something I've never seen. Like Lauren, when you're watching this panel play out, like, how are you taking this?
I mean, as well as I did a few weeks ago when we saw it on Disney Plus, I just felt like it was the exact feelings and everything that we were seeing in this love triangle where both of them are just kind of like heartbroken at the situation. So it just took me there.
Yeah. I mean, Matt, how about you?
I mean, yeah, it's just it's really emotional. I know we kind of compare the show to the comic and it's different, but like seeing Gambit again and how serious him and Rogue are here, it's just always pulls at my heartstrings, man, because I love those two together. And she's also just kind of like, hey, I don't know whose side to take.
Mhm.
Really, she has ties to both of them. And it's kind of a really big emotional moment for her that we kind of look past there for a moment.
Yeah. I mean, Tom?
I mean, let's talk about it, man. It's suit up.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna get that panel with everybody, but this is quintessential 90s cartoonery
Mhm.
right there on the page. There's a lot of emotions going on, and you know, as someone who wore a uniform for a long time, and I know Matt can vouch for this, you have those pensive moments where you realize what you're doing and why you're doing it, and to have this locker room type scene, it really puts things in that perspective.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with this. Like, this was one, and I mean, I'm even just putting this in the chat too. This is the calm before the storm.
Yeah.
Pun intended.
Well, you know, it plays into, because they know they're walking into it, and they know, like, in this moment too, it is like the final goodbyes. Like, there's this, you know, mutual respect going on with Cyclops and Storm, because they're, you know, obviously the leaders of the teams, and as they're preparing, it's like they're all having that sense, like, we're not going to make it out of this. And they have to see that kind of reaction. It just amplifies what's going on, because we've never seen them in this kind of situation where it's like we're getting ready to say goodbye. And to
Mhm.
see that play out, like, it's something that it's a little mesmerizing at the time, because of all the battles they've ever gone through with Magneto. What makes this one stand out? And it just goes to show about how much he's become more dangerous and more driven to his own cause. And to see that moment, like, it elevates so much, that when they get ready to go up, you see that final moment in space, and then it's like, boom, here we go. And once they land on asteroid M, are very smart about what they do here, because as we see, they go in and they eliminate the acolytes very, very quickly. And Lauren, when you're seeing this go, how smart was it to get rid of the acolytes via teleportation here?
Oh, that was very smart. But I think my first reaction was when Gambit comes in and says Avon calling, and I was like, "What a just a '90s thing to throw in there."
Yeah.
Mary Kay.
I mean, think about it. It's Remy. He's the beautiful Cajun. He's got skin so soft. What can I tell
I
you?
mean, I sold Avon in middle school in the '90s to my teachers, so it was
Exactly.
a big thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was they had, and I don't want to jump ahead, but
No, go ahead.
yeah, they were very strategic in what they were doing, and obviously Colossus, you very quickly knew that he was having a hand in keeping them secret in what they were doing. So he did. They didn't go in there angry. They didn't go in there emotional. Like they went in there prepared as they could be for the situation.
And the idea of teaming up, like putting their strengths with each other. Gambit with
Yeah, that was
Wolverine.
smart.
Who were some of the other ones? I
Oh,
just
this
had them.
Rogan Scarlet, or Rogan Quicksilver.
Rogue and Quicksilver, the strength and the speed, and then obviously having the two telepaths together. Like that's some RPG stuff right there. It's like, how do you build your party?
Yeah. No, I mean, when you're seeing this, like I say, it screams it, because when you see this all start unfolding, and they're being very precision, especially too with dealing with the very young and influential, or easy to influence, I should say. And for me, this is a little bit of a throwback, because when you see the two young kids there, that's Rusty and Skids, who were being mentored at one point by Cyclops and Jean. And to see like how they're getting swayed into this, because they've been recruited into the Mutant Liberation Front to come back here. Like, Matt, when you're seeing like that reaction, especially seeing these young kids involved, I mean, I should say, young adults rather. Like, how is that playing out about this with the stakes going on here?
I mean, this is kind of like one of those things about war, right? They're at a war kind of with each other, with humans and things like that. And it hammers it home. They're all friends. They all deeply know each other. And I think that's what makes the X-Men always kind of so tragic, is they know each other on a very deep personal level. And, I mean, Magneto and Charles, best friends. And, how many times have the X-Men gone to mentor somebody, and then they kind of, something tragic happens, or Magneto sways them. And so it's just very much plays into the whole, this is deeply personal. I think that's why a lot of the times with Magneto, very few outside the X-Men sphere of influence get involved, just because of how personal it is for everybody involved.
Yeah. Tom?
I think that's a really neat interpretation on that, Matt. I think that on top of it, considering how many characters there are involved in just the X-Men side of Marvel, it's smart of them just to leave it where they are, because honestly, at that point, you got to go, wait, who's over here now? It's hard enough to keep up just with the roster alone.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're good just keeping it as little contained as possible.
Yeah, and they especially made a point to really thin it down here because there's so many involved with the Acolytes. There's so many involved with both blue and gold teams here at the time too, that they really condensed it down to really drive home the point of like, okay, we really want to have this epic battle, but we don't want anybody lost in the shuffle. And I really like how they set that up, because as we get into it, Magneto is not happy that he has invaders. His plans are getting thwarted. They're messing with Asteroid M, Avalon, and now it's like it's time to fight. Ring the bell, and seeing him just come bursting in the scene. I'll start with Tom first. How is your reaction to that scene as he's flying in?
I'm not a fan of 90s comic books. Simply for no, and there's a reason. Story-wise is one thing. But what it comes down to is the overdrawn, the over thick black lines and whatnot. So when you see it in this context done well, like there's a few panels in this whole book that I wouldn't mind having put on my wall.
Mm.
And that's because it's more realistic. It's not 90s comics feeling. And now I know that back in that time, it was, the 4 different colors, and that's how you were printing books back then. So I understand, you had limited resources, but your black market didn't have to be that thick.
No, at all. I agree with you big time. That's kind of always one of the things that have detracted me as well. But you're right. Like that panel is just beautiful. It's so well done. And it's beautiful. That's all I got.
It's so beautiful. He's at a loss for words.
I mean, honestly, it is. It's like you.
Okay, I'll be honest with you. The Bruins just scored a goal.
But it's kind of, it coincides because you hear the crowd roar as Magneto's flying in the scene.
You do. It's like that popping moment from if comic books are wrestling and wrestling is comic books, right? It's that.
Amen.
You got your Magneto. He's the heel, and you have Wolverine and your crew, man. They're over here. Yeah, that's right. Your tribal chief is hanging out, and this is the big the moment, man. This is your WrestleMania moment, and for X-Men especially with what's about to go down between these heroes, are about to just beat the life out of each other.
They're about to and then on the flip side, they're gonna
for copyrights.
It's gonna go
that's as much as you can say now.
Yeah. But especially too, at this scene, we have the first X-Man to jump in the fray here. And I mean, Lauren, this is Wolverine, seeing him just fly into this. What's going through your mind here?
Well, that Magneto scene, though, took me out of it for a second, because when I got to that page, I was like, this is just so gorgeous. Like, it's about to go down, but I had to take a minute to just appreciate the beauty. And then you go straight from this gorgeous panel with this cape that is just flowing, and I just love the colors, to then go to Wolvie and full on almost looking like he's not in berserker rage state, but it's almost looking like that, like he is giving it his all in that moment. And so I was ready for the fight to go down. That's when you get that moment of okay, let's go. Those pages always tend to be less dialogue, but so much can still happen with such little dialogue in those types of scenes.
And that's why a picture's worth 1,000 words.
Yeah,
oh, look at that.
But it's true though.
That was clever.
I heard that somewhere.
in a fortune cookie.
Yeah.
But but it's true though, because as it comes in, you do see Wolverine's ready to get down to business. Magneto is, and he's just not even blinking. He's just in this very calm,
instinctual,
focused, place that he's just not even phased by this at all. And then, to see him just basically say, bring it. This is just a totally different feel that Nicieza was crafting here with Kubert. That this just did not feel like the average X-Men fight. They honestly, in my opinion, felt outclassed.
So one thing I took out of this as I was going through it is those first few panels during the fight after Wolverine jumps in. The first few times you see Magneto, take a look at his helmet. It's completely blacked out. That means, to me, as I read it, as I interpret it, is that Magneto's not there anymore. There's something else that has taken a hold of him. I understand, his personal investment and everything in this, but he's at the point where all humanity, even though he's immune, is gone.
Yeah.
Are you foreshadowing something like Onslaught? Or are you just saying that because he's just like that could happen to any of us where we're just at our wits' end and we're just
And that's what I'm going at.
Okay.
I think that it's the duality of how we can be when we get to that point and snap.
right.
Well, I
So
think
parenting too. I mean, you reason, and then you just got to get it done.
I
Mhm.
think that's what makes this particular issue so great is because very rarely do you see particularly like Professor Xavier, for example, at his just absolute end. I
Well,
mean, how many
look at the next panel.
right. I mean, you've seen Magneto at his wits' end. You've seen Magneto like, that's it, I'm done. And Charles always kind of comes back around. He's that voice of reason. But in this issue, the gloves are off. He is absolutely just done.
Right.
And I think that's what brings so much heat to this because you don't ever really see that.
Well, they
Mhm. And
both always pull their punches because they both have mutual respect for each other. We see that in the comics
Mhm.
and the movies, and I feel like punches are no longer being pulled.
Yeah, no, they're not holding anything back.
Nope.
And you can even tell in Xavier's face too. Like he has the most stern look on his face. And he's preparing himself to do something drastic. Like you can just tell with just a little facial demeanor that he's giving off. Because as
the furrowed brow, you can't even see
Yeah.
his eyes as well.
Yeah.
Like his bit of humanity he's at odds with himself.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And no, and as you see in this play out too, like this is where it jumps in because you're seeing the fight go down and you just see how absolutely ruthless he's being too. Because in this moment, you're seeing that they're trying to do a psionic attack on him and he's just enough. And he is just venting his rage. And to see like even Gambit's trying to make a quick one-liner and Magneto cuts his mouth.
Dude, that was
Like-
gnarly.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Matt, how's your reaction to this?
It was gnarly. I mean, again, it's not to keep, beating the dead horse, but that just goes to show that like enough is enough. I mean, he just basically tells him to shut up. And it's just like, oh, damn. Wow. All right.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like watching that unfold, it just gets even more wild and crazy to see. And then even just as he's going to fight the rest of the X-Men, they're like Rogue comes in for the save and even knocks his helmet off,
Yep.
which is key. But he's not even like phased by it, which is something like Lauren, when I'm seeing this happen, I was shocked at that he was just as composed as he was. I mean, what was your reaction to this?
It was just more of that like turmoil, like nobody's holding back. They all just like they're not thinking about anything else other than just getting the other person. And yeah, I was still like not expecting that move with Gambit. I was like, is Gambit okay? So
Yeah.
it was just I was also in the moment. So it was hard to like think sometimes when you're like in that moment and you're just like, what's gonna happen next? What's gonna happen next?
Mhm. And then when you see him actually go after Quicksilver, Tom, when you're seeing this play out, like how is your reaction to this?
Oh, I'm all in. I've always liked Quicksilver. So to see that, it was more of a layup, I think, that Rogue's, Gambit got him distracted. Rogue went in for the layup and Quicksilver got the hit because that's how that I see it, that the helmet came off. So he was vulnerable. So not only that, but it's the fact that, all right, Dad, F around. Now you've found out.
Yeah. and we see this, but Dad is sitting there just saying, like, I'm not phased by you. And he actually starts crunching the metal armor that Quicksilver's wearing and is just kind of standing over him, just talking trash to him. Which,
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about the father-son bond here. They've always been very dysfunctional, but this just took it up a whole different level because Magneto feels so betrayed. And as a reader, like, I understand his point. Like, this is one thing that makes him arguably Marvel's greatest villain
Agreed.
because you sympathize with him. And when you can have like you understand what he's doing, you're not agreeing with it, but you can understand it. It really flips the idea of he's just a bad guy, but he's so committed to his cause and what he's doing that you can kind of go like, okay, I see what you're doing. I'm not saying I co-sign on it, but I get it. And it compels you, even at times to kind of root for him.
Yeah.
I mean, to see, and especially in this case too, like I say, he's showing no fear about taking care of Quicksilver and just unloading. And this is where things are like, I think at this stage, and please super chat, correct me if I'm wrong. The minute he takes out his son, Did anybody else go, oh, he does not care, he's killing everybody here?
Oh, I mean, I think we're already at that point, but
Nope.
you didn't think
I felt
so.
like
All
it
right.
No.
villainized him more because if you're willing, like I'm in the, I have an adult age child and I'm in the mindset of a parent and child is always a parent and child. You always have to give that child the benefit of the doubt, protect that child. No, even if you don't agree with that child, even though what that child did was wrong. So I felt like that just showed how much more out for blood he was, and it made him less of a sympathetic villain because I couldn't relate to that.
Nope.
That's
I don't think that it made him more of a villain. I think that it more made him that even in this rage that he's in, he still thinks quickly because out of everybody, who's the fastest one that can get a hit on him is Quicksilver. So I look at it as a statistician type of deal. Like he's looking at, all right, cool. I've got Remy taken care of. Rogue is an easy one because of his powers and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So she's going to pull punches. Out of everybody that's in that room right now, who is my biggest threat? And Quicksilver is the only one that he can't see and keep an eye on.
Yeah.
And that
So
should be his biggest weakness too. And I feel like you see that with villains when they really want to go. You saw it with Kylo Ren. You want to go full dark side, cut out your weakness.
Ooh, that's true.
And in this case, Lauren, great point, because that's exactly what he does. Because like for me as a reader, I'm watching this going, he's willing to go this level. Like, I'm sitting there kind of going like, maybe there's a sliver of hope. Maybe there's something that's going to bring him back. No, like he's fully all in. And watching him just do this is what prompts the biggest moment of this entire story. Because you do see somebody is creeping in the shadows, waiting to strike.
It was his moment.
Once he jumps in, this is where everything falls apart, because you're seeing the rage of Wolverine and he's not afraid to go there. And they even show the quick flashback sequence too with Fabian Cortez, the first acolyte there. And you see this play out as Wolverine cuts him. Magneto is kind of like, I don't want to say in shock, but I think he's just basically hit that moment where it's just like he flips on the switch and goes a whole different level. I mean, Lauren, when you're watching this, what is going through your mind here?
I mean, we were waiting for this moment 100%. So it was kind of one of those like, oh, here we go. And I was excited, but also bracing myself for it. But I mean, yeah, the X-Men have always pulled their punches with everybody because they're the good guys and that's what the good guys do. And this was, not pulling his punches. It was, like he was fighting Sabretooth kind of thing. And he went full on him. It was, exciting and nerve-wracking.
Different perspective. I think that Magneto was so involved with making sure to take out Quicksilver that he was so focused. I mean, we know he's the master of magnetism. He can always feel the fields around him. I think he was so drawn in, he couldn't feel Wolverine coming.
And he usually never lets Wolverine get the jump on him. So I think, he was also surprised because Wolverine got the jump on him.
Great point. Matt, what's your take on this?
By God, that's Wolverine's music. It's John Cena. Yeah, but no, that's a really good point I didn't think of, is that Magneto kind of just forgot. He just kind of forgot. Somehow Wolverine has returned. And that's kind of how it happened for him, right?
I mean, it doesn't help that he's also 5'3", so he can, sneak around.
And Magneto's pretty tall, so we didn't really see him coming at all. It was crazy.
Well, yeah, because when you think about it too.
Rolled.
Yeah.
Well, this is what it's going to look like when we go to New York, because Rich, Ken, Matt, and then it's going to be me and Lauren. So she's going to be like the X-23, and I'm going to be,
I'm actually 6'2". You didn't know?
Shit, I'm going to be Puck at that point.
We're going to be like, oh no, we lost Tom in the crowds. Where'd he go? Tom, raise your banner.
I'm talking to somebody over here.
We'll just
on the back of Tom's backpack.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll just put a Power Rangers balloon so we can find you.
There we go.
It'll be a dragon sword. But to think about, how distracted he was. But to think about how distracted he was. Xavier put together his quote unquote elite team here, because he comes up there with 6 of his best students. They get taken off the board except the one that is the best of what he does.
He took up the expendable ones. That's where I look at it.
Well, let's say
but Gene, I don't think was expendable. Gene was
No.
Gene
necessary.
wasn't.
Okay. South Park reference.
Nah,
Operation Human Shield. You catch my drift?
I don't.
I
watch
wasn't
South
allowed to
Park.
watch South Park.
Oh, you poor people.
Sorry.
I just never got into it. I'm sorry.
The first wave in the movie was Operation Human Shield. I think that Charles brought up the expendable ones because he knew that everybody could go down and most of them would come back. So everybody was protect Jean and Professor. That was it.
But I think
They
he knew that
just didn't know it.
Wolverine would do whatever he could to protect Jean. But he also knew Wolverine would be the most vulnerable around Magneto. He always is. But Wolverine's also never seems to care. He's still willing to give it his all.
Because I don't think in his mind he ever thought Magneto would go there.
Yeah.
I don't think they ever did. I think as weird as they've had this mutual respect for each other, they've never thought about crossing the line. And literally, that's what you get here. Like to say, when you start seeing the panel start happening, especially on the right side there, where you start seeing the adamantium come out. And this is a moment, too, that Magneto just announced this is over. And when you start seeing this unfold, and it leads to the biggest shot here, this near full page panel, and the absolute fear that is in Xavier and Jean's face. Like, this is just a testament. Just Andy Kubert's just on a whole different level here.
Absolutely.
And when you see this, Lauren, seeing this unfold, this is not the small screen. This is the comic page. What was the reaction?
I mean, I knew it was coming because I've seen this picture a million times, but it still gave me the oof, because one, you're seeing Jean and Xavier, but also just and he even makes a comment of it was so painful. He was screaming and he couldn't hear the screams kind of thing. And you're seeing they're coming out of open wounds. So he's already ripped apart. And this guy was almost died having this stuff put into him. He's one of the strongest characters in Marvel comics ever. He is the best at what he does. And he's constantly just getting ripped apart over and over and over. So I feel like it's emotionally hurtful and physically hurtful, very much so. So it hit hard. It cut hard. It cut deep.
I mean, Tom?
So as I was reading this, I was sharing bits and pieces and panels with my wife because she asked me last week when this happened, what they do on the TV. So I said, well, actually, we're doing this next week. So as I was reading this, I kept flipping my laptop around and showing her. And then I showed her the actual panel. And then I read probably some of the best writing I've seen in a Marvel comic book ever from the narration, and just the look on her face of, that's about it. Right. I mean, it's just leapfrogging off what Lauren said. It is heavy in every aspect.
Matt, how about you?
I mean, you didn't think he would ever go there. And just to know how bonded it is with Wolverine, that the adamantium, it's crucial. It's just ripping him to pieces. And the fact that they're like, you can't hear him scream. And then everybody's shocked. Yeah. Nobody thought that Magneto would cross that line because he's all about mutants. He will, take you out of the fight, but he never will take you out of the fight to that degree. And so to see him finally cross that line, it's kind of that, oh crap moment.
Yeah.
And you're seeing someone with healing powers not heal.
Exactly. That's even worse. It's like Wolverine, he's okay. He can heal, right? And it's kind of like, well, not this time.
Yeah. This is the mic drop moment because this was unthinkable that we see Wolverine. And this is right now in prime Wolverine time too. He has become the unstoppable Wolverine, the face of the X-Men. And to see him get taken out like this, it's stunning. Walking into the comic shop and talking to fans about this on that day too, everybody's just like, whoa.
Yeah.
And that's the only reaction you can have is just your eyes get really big. Marvel did this. They really did it. And nobody was sure, honestly, at that time, if he was going to get it back or not, because the process involved. I mean, there was a whole Weapon X storyline where you find out about, what he went through to get bonded with the adamantium. And now that it's off, what was going to happen? This is one of those moments where you really got to have some great stories come out of this, but it's also just so game changing because you never think of this moment ever happening. And like, how come Magneto had never done it prior? And this goes back to, a point that we've been saying all night too. Magneto is just at this different level that he's done playing around. Like, the mutual respect is gone. And this is just a whole different personality that the world in the Marvel universe is seeing, and how they're reacting to it is just astonishing. So then when you go right to the next panel and see the reaction, I mean, you see the scream come out from Jean yelling Logan, and then as everybody's trying to get put back together, you see Xavier just loses it because he feels ultimately responsible for this. And let's be honest, rightfully so. He's the one that led this whole mission. He's the one that was so determined to take Magneto out that even the demeanor leading up to this, like Nancy has just crafts this perfectly, that you can just see him getting angrier and angrier. So when this moment finally plays out, Xavier just does the unthinkable.
Before we get to that, can we just take something into context real quick?
Sure.
We're reading this at a human pace. We are looking at this. Think about this. We're really probably just watching this all go down in slow-mo because everything in this book possibly only took 15 minutes. So this whole sequence right now of Magneto ripping it out, Charles jumping in, Logan, that's literally like 4 rounds of D&D. That's all I'm saying. That's 24 seconds right there. Okay? For those who don't know, a round of D&D is 6 seconds.
Yeah. But
The more you know.
Just saying, like there's so much that they've been able to process out into all these panels, so we have an aspect of like, what the hell is going on? I just want to throw that out there.
No, but you're exactly right, because as you see this, I'm going to throw the image back up on the screen. Like, you just see the rage is built up and Xavier unloading, and how he says, like, this is a matter of life and death, and just the words that he's yelling at his friends. Like, you're seeing obviously the bond that they've gone through is just gone.
Peace.
And now,
or lack thereof.
Yeah. And now you see Xavier's just like, no more, and just completely.
That's someone else's line later.
Yeah. Like I say, you just have this, and it plays out, and like how insane this is, and just how he's had enough, and just like you see that venting of anger. Like I say, Tom, walk us through that.
I mean, Charles just it was done. He was over it. So, like I said, because this took place so quickly, what really bugged me, and I know we should be saving this for the end of the episode, what bugged me is like, why didn't he do this sooner, as soon as the helmet was off? Just saying.
Well,
like,
it's
why
because
did we have to wait for Quicksilver and Wolverine? And like once it was off, he should have been right there.
It's that thing with Charles, is he's always trying to find the good, find the peaceful, the mutual understanding, the way out. Like, he doesn't ever want to go there, so he's always trying to find like that. What's
He
the
knew
way
he
out?
was gonna go there before he got there.
But
I'm
I don't.
sorry.
Okay, so here's my take on it: is he
But he may not have been
walked into
ready.
he walked into this fight talking a big game, but I don't think he actually thought he would have to use it. Right? I think he walked into like, all right, we're gonna do this. But then when he got there, it's like when you're mad at like your spouse or something, right? Your friend, your son.
I'm
whatever,
never
your
mad at
kid.
my spouse.
But you're like,
Never.
you're mad, man. You're
You
mad.
sit
But
on
then,
a throne of lies.
but then you see them, and you
second
kind of
one.
like, you don't feel that anger to the degree that you're like, you're making, oh, I'm gonna do this, and then you see them, and that anger kind of goes away, and you kind of still think you can find like the good in that person, or whatever it may be, or you ignore all the red flags for that crazy big booty goth chick ex-girlfriend that you had, that you just walking red flag that just will never go away. But I think it's one of those things. But then it finally got to a point where Charles was like, nah, I have to be about that life now. I have to go do some gangsta shit, if you will. And so he does. It's all very reactionary, man. Like, like you said, it's just happening in real time. It's very bang, bang, bang. They're all playing in emotions, and they don't have time to think. And he finally had to react. And so he reacted.
Yeah. And then, Lauren, when you're watching this, and especially when he gets done, and you just see that panel that just goes thump, and just Magneto is lifeless. Like, how's that?
Well, I thought it was very interesting, just the events leading up to it too, where Jean and Xavier, like, they're in his head. So they're making him feel the deaths of his family members all over again. And he's back in the Holocaust and all these super dark things. And so he should be, you know, more empathetic to him at that moment because he's feeling all these negative things that have gotten Magneto to where he is. And I think that just goes to show how fed up he was at that moment, was seeing what he did to Wolverine and seeing what he's doing to all of his X-Men who he's responsible for. He trained a lot of them from kids. He
Yeah.
essentially rescued them and gave them a safe place. And now they're all in danger because of him. So I feel like those, like it showed how done he was and how guilty and angry he also felt responsible for the human lives that were lost that day. So I think it just was in that moment just needed to show like how upset Xavier was to do that. But it, you know, it all made sense, but it was just very, very high emotion.
Yeah. No, I think that's one thing that rings true is like you have such a big battle, and to see it just unfold like that and just leave literally nothing left. And even like the remnants is Xavier, he's completely shattered by this. The rest of the X-Men are still trying to put together what's happened. Like Jean is literally holding Wolverine together with telekinesis and is struggling to do this because his body is just rejecting everything that's going on here.
Well, okay. So I think she's using both sides of her powers because the telepathy is keeping his thought process.
She's trying to not mess up his head with more trauma too. Yeah.
And her telekinesis is the one that's stopping the electrical flow of current from his nerves to his brain. So I think she's beautifully mixing those powers together, just like that well-conditioned hair.
Yeah. You know, it's going to be worse, though, is what happens tomorrow in X-Men 97 because Jean's not there.
Ooh, that's a good point.
So,
yeah.
That's why I say everybody better be ready for tomorrow when it drops. But like I say, who's
got their comfort pillow?
It's going to be okay. Tell me it's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay.
Tell me it's going to be okay.
No, but that's the whole point when you see this all unfold. Like it plays out and it goes from there. Shout out to the Bada Boom podcast.
Bada Boom.
So, like they're literally just pacing this together so much, and you get this vibe of just like the aftermath here is going to be so much graver. And then when you get the parting shot of this, and this is one moment that just stands out because it explains so much with just Colossus holding Magneto and having that like goodbye to the X-Men and just basically being like, this is what happened for what cost.
Yeah.
And just this panel, like I've been singing about Kuber's praises all night and just absolutely just whole different level here just for that goodbye.
It gives me Batman animated vibes, like how stoic it is, how Peter's just holding him like that. Again, when I flip this around to my wife, who I never argue with, even she had a moment of like, one, what the F is Colossus doing here? Because I only showed her bits and pieces, and I knew prior going into this that Colossus had been on both sides of the coin. So to see him come out like this, that as much as he is in Magneto's camp, he is still, and I'm not going to say it as an X-Men, he is still a beautiful human being.
Mm-hmm.
I've always respected Colossus in the context that I know him as the gentle giant, and to see him like this really just puts the metallic organic cherry on top.
Yeah. Lauren, what's your thoughts on this final scene?
I think I agree with Tom in that regard of, we all know Colossus as being a big sweetheart. And so when he showed up and I saw him with Magneto's people at first, I was kind of like, wait. And then when I saw, okay, he was hiding the X-Men. Oh, okay, that makes more sense. But like he genuinely always seems in everything I've read that he's been in and seen that he's been in, he just wants everybody to get along and to be that hero. It only takes, 1 minute of being that hero. And obviously, yeah, he doesn't like what happened, but I think he also understands that it needed to kind of happen. And now he just wants to be there to help however he can.
Yeah. Matt?
Yeah. I mean, it was weird, but I think at the same time, like it's that morning of like this, things will never be the same again. It's this cross the line. Things aren't going to go back to the status quo. We're going to mourn our friends. I mean, both sides took losses. And so it's kind of that symbolic moment, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's the whole point too. Like Colossus, since he has such ties to both at this stage too, to see him there, and it's just literally like at what cost? Like who won
Mm.
here? And this really just defines the moment, and ends on such a strong note. I mean, the storyline goes from here into Wolverine 75, and then into the Avengers, and this kicks off a whole different new age of X-Men story.
Nobody won.
Yeah,
Nobody won.
Nope.
Just the threat was slowed down. Did anybody win? No.
Yeah.
Well, the losses were greater than the win.
But you don't know how far Magneto would have gone.
Mhm.
So the X-Men could have essentially won. But I want to go back to what Ken had said before, was that this story created so many other stories that came off of it. And, going into Wolverine 75, that was Wolverine didn't know he had bone claws. He thought that that was part of the Weapon X thing. So that was kind of cool when he pops the bone claws and he's looking at him and he's like, I guess I always had these. And, that's obviously they've ran with that in the movie industry. And I thought that was really interesting to get to see, and to get to see him kind of lick his wounds and come back.
Yeah. Like even the save he does, I mean, even spoiling a little bit of 75, when Jean's getting ready to get sucked out of the Blackbird as it's coming back into space, and he has to make that triumphant wake up and save, risking himself to save Jean.
Even at his core, Wolverine's always going to be Wolverine.
Oh yeah, no, there's no question. But this even proved, like, this gave the fans an idea like everything was going to be okay, but
Mhm.
not like we're back to the best of what I do.
Yeah, everything will come up Canadian.
So that being said, I mean, obviously we talked about a lot of great things with this story, but let's, we have to be very critical about this. Starting with Matt, what was something you didn't like about this?
I
Yeah,
don't really know. Like, I guess if I had to find a complaint, it's just kind of how you have this buildup of a big battle between characters, and then they kind of just toss the characters to a side right away. Like they meant nothing. You're kind of built up, and then they're like, nope, they're teleported, they're gone. And so there's no real big fight. And so you're kind of left with, okay. And then again, Charles finishes the job, but he doesn't really finish the job at the same time. So I guess it's just that's minor complaints. I thought this was a very good comic book. I thought it was very emotional, very violent. I maybe would have liked to see a couple more big, meaningful deaths, but it's just minor complaints, man. I don't really have much.
All right, Lauren.
I don't know that I can think of anything. I don't.
No, it's
I don't
it's
know that
honest.
there was a single moment where I was like, "Ooh, I don't like that," or "I don't like this." I really feel like I genuinely enjoyed the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm looking for nitpicks.
I know. I'm like literally looking at my
I feel like
notes.
I have
I'm like,
I have to
I don't
complain
like
about
it.
something.
I thought it was
Yeah,
interesting at
don't
the
worry.
beginning, all the religious comments. I thought that was really interesting how they tied in religion, and how Magneto, praying to a god he no longer believes in. I can only think of good things. And there was Shiro Yoshida actually says he sees the coming onslaught. So we got like
Yeah.
foreshadowing there.
Mhm.
I can't think of anything.
Matt,
All right, Tom. All right.
Length. As much as it had some really great high highs, I think that for me, there was some like, okay, did we need to say that? Did we need to say that? But I think you're right, Matt, that it could have helped maybe having a few other big battles, or, working, taking out the acolytes, but would have still had the same effect in a two-parter versus trying to jam pack everything in one part.
Yeah,
That's
where
a
do you
fair-
That's a fair
stop?
question.
Yeah.
I again, 90s drawing aside, I think that everything hit where it needed to hit, but the little tiny nitpicky things that I'm going to find in there, like I always do, again, are just ancillary. It's something we don't even have to talk about. But I just think the length could have been, we could have taken a few panels here and treated them somewhere else.
Yeah, I the only thing I think, and I agree with this would have been great for a real two-parter, is I wish they would have just had the battle be the issue.
Yeah.
And like do the hype into it like as issue 24. And just like literally like when they land on Asteroid M, that's the last page of 24. 25 is just let's get all crazy with the action.
Or could we have done 20, 24 as like the Boom, a 22, a standard issue run, and then do a double issue for the next one.
Or I'll even kind of double up on that. You could have done 25 and did an annual.
Okay. Yeah, I would see that.
Like I say, if you wanted to go that route for it, but I think that they really just wanted to condense it into a proper story time, because they knew after 25, like, everything changes,
And it did.
and we have to remember too in comics, because I know this day and age it's weird hearing about issues going past 25. The regular series always gets a reboot at some point, just because it's the way of the market, in my opinion. So so when you get to those anniversary,
Squirrel.
Yeah. When you get to those anniversary issues, like they're supposed to be big, like the 25s, the 50s, 75s, and so forth. Like when you get to that moment, like that's when it's supposed to be big. So if it's not that, it's almost like a letdown, so to speak. So I really thought for the time period they were in, I think they nailed their points. I would have just got to the fight earlier, but I'm not mad about it. Like there's nothing I'm really like about.
And Jean's hair. Way too much.
It's
I
not-
It was
I
the
love
90s.
I love Jean Grey,
It's a
but
lot of hairspray.
I never liked her design at this point. That's just my one thing. And Sunfire, holy crap.
Yeah, Sunfire, he had an interesting look at this time.
Oh my.
Well, I mean, I could nitpick the costumes too. Like the cartoons, I feel like get exceptions and whatnot, but like I am not a fan of underoos. The new Superman, like, not a fan of it, man. I don't do the
Oh,
underoos on
no.
grown men. But apparently that's very popular and I'm in the minority.
Quail
so yeah,
Man.
I could nitpick the costumes, but it's also, you got to take it for what it was, the 90s.
Yeah.
Quail Man. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, jeez. So that being said, we have to give our grades for this. So Lauren, we'll start with you. Out of 10, what do you give this?
Well, considering I couldn't find anything wrong, I guess I have to give it a 10.
Okay.
So there you go.
That's completely fair. Matt, how about you?
I'll go 9.5.
Oh my God, it's Doug. I'm an idiot.
Yeah, what? Where have you? She
I had
really
to
had to
Google
Google
that.
that.
I
Oh my
totally
God.
forgot who Quail Man was. I am ashamed to be a child of the 90s.
Lord,
Oh,
wrap it up.
no.
Wrap up the
Sorry,
show.
cut off that.
Nope, I had nothing. It was just a 9.5. I mean, it was good. I don't really have too much nitpick, just minor things here and there, but yeah.
All right, Tom. How about
Agreed. Again, the little things are just the little things, but the writing made up for the little things that, like I said, certain things pacing is one thing. The writing made up for it. So it's a 10 out of 10.
you? All right.
Oh,
That's a big grade for Tom.
Nice.
I know
Yeah.
that's big for him.
I just
I-
thought it was my Wolverine bump that I was going to be the only one that put a 10.
No.
Nope.
I respect it.
Like I said, pacing is one thing, but when you can balance it out with good writing, makes sense to me.
Yeah. For this issue, this really captured the 90s vibe of the X-Men. And this is something that I'm loving seeing on X-Men 97, because for a lot of fans, they haven't seen this kind of storytelling. And for this run in the 90s, this has really exemplified why the X-Men are as popular as they are. And the writing is just top level here. And the artwork by Andy Kubert, I could sit here and just rave about this all day.
Go ahead.
But this is about as close to as perfect as you get. But I am with Matt on this one. This gets an official 9.5 out of me out of 10. Like it's near perfect. But like I say, I just think there's a couple things had they just made this into like the fight issue. Because for me personally, and like I say, it's a me thing.
Wow, I overrated than you?
Yeah.
Wow, it's not even a Power Ranger issue.
I know, it's crazy.
It's not even Power Rangers.
I always treat this as like Superman 75 is my benchmark, because when we talk about colossal fights of the 90s and that issue alone, and everything's a full page panel and everything feels larger than life, that's what I compare this to,
Okay.
because it's the last stand of Wolverine. You also have the quote unquote final showdown between Xavier and Magneto, where the line is crossed. And putting that on that kind of level, like it needs to deliver, and it did, but I also think like it could have gone a little different route to make it a little stronger. That is just my opinion of it, but I do love this issue. And like I say, I'm a big fan of this 90s run too. And this is what really solidified me as an X-Men fan. So there's a lot to enjoy with this. And as we'll be discussing on X-Men 97 tomorrow on social media to see how this all plays out, because this is kind of a little bit of a spoiler. Unless they do something real crazy, and get some
Yeah.
insane time travel involving Franklin Richards. Just putting that out there.
Ken, I can't wait to do Ken was wrong on that one.
Yeah. Oh, I'm hoping I'm wrong about Franklin Richards about that. No, I'm just saying I'm guaranteeing the mind wipe is going. Hey, shout out to Megan in the chat there. She's like 9.5.
Dang.
Yes. And like we say, if you even want more X-Men 97 talk, Nerd Initiative on Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like, because Megan is going to be leading the charge, breaking down all the events that happened involving the season 1 of X-Men 97, including the big finale dropping tomorrow on Disney Plus.
First thing I'm going to watch when I get up. If I don't stay up.
This is true. But, you know, it's a great day to stay up, too, because tomorrow is New Comic Book Day, and we have reviews kicking off at Nerd Initiative. So we will start with Lauren. Lauren, what is your pick for this week?
So my pick for this week is actually shockingly a Wolverine comic. It is Weapon X-Men. This is by Yil Del Rey Sinar is the artist, and the writer is Christos Gage. This is a 4-issue run, and they actually wrapped it up in this. But what's really awesome about this is basically Onslaught is attacking, and Jean has assembled 5 different Wolverines from 5 different timelines, or from 5 different universes, to fight him. And one of them is one of my favorite Wolverines, is Old Man Logan, and this most recent issue focused on Old Man Logan, and it started off with his origin story, which if you're not familiar with that story, I highly recommend reading it before Deadpool and Wolverine come out. Not that they were in the Wastelands, not that that was Pym Falls, but it sure looked like Pym Falls and it sure looked like the Wastelands. But this comic also introduced a new Wolverine, Jane Howlett. I am loving her. I'm really hoping we get more of her. And what's really cool about this comic is after each issue, there's like an index that tells you about these Wolverines and their stories. So if you want to go and read the backstory of zombie Wolverine, or the Wolverine with one hand, or the Wolverine who decided to settle down with Jean and kind of lose his mutant powers, or Old Man Logan, you can do that and they tell you right where to go. If you are a Wolverine fan, an X-Men fan, or just a Marvel comic book fan, can't recommend this enough. It's only 4 issues. Really hoping we get more spinoffs and whatnot. But yes, go check out Weapon X-Men.
Excellent pick. Matt, how about you?
You know, the British may have lost the war, but they're winning comic books. And Redcoat issue 2 drops from Ghost Machine tomorrow. Jeff Johns, Brad Anderson, Brian Hitch. You know, it's god dang. What are you just Rob Lay on the letters, man? It is so good. This is like such a fun story. They throw in historical accuracies, but also take a different turn on history, and they're just having fun with it. I mean, Simon Peer, he's a guy who is immortal. He can't die. He stole those powers from Benjamin Franklin during a ritual, and now they're after him. And so it's just now he's met up and teamed up with Albert Einstein, you know, the team up that you never thought would you needed, but here it is. And it's a fantastic, this is just such a fun comic book. It is so well drawn. The colors just jump at you from the page. The story is so clever. There's comedic actions, and there's even a surprise character that shows up in this next issue. So is Simon the only immortal? I don't know. Guess you're gonna have to find out in issue 2.
The details in the art are phenomenal.
Yeah.
And
Brian
Lauren
Hitch is
helped me on that review too. Just want to shout out Lauren. Her and I both tag teamed that review. So check it out.
Yeah.
I just
can't
wanted
wait.
to read it early.
Yeah. No,
That is the advantage of doing this job. We can just go.
Right.
yes. But you know, like I say, Ghost Machine is absolutely killing it right now. If you haven't checked out Geiger and you haven't checked out Rook Exodus as along with Redcoat, like you're truly missing out, doing some great things there.
That's
All
true.
right, Tom.
Since everybody's kind of staying in their wheelhouse, I mean, it goes without saying, Godzilla versus Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Part 2 is going on. You know, we did cover it in a previous episode, the first whole series here on Turn a Page. So make sure you go back and check, you know, your links and come back and watch the episode. Then we're done the next run of Godzilla Power Rangers 2. We probably do that again. Just saying, it is fantastic. We finally realize how the White Ranger is going to be involved in this story. For the Godzilla fans out there, you are absolutely going to love what they're doing. For the Power Ranger fans, your jaw is going to hit the floor. The art is fantastic. And I got to give a very, very big shout out to Baldemar Rivas. I know he typically works on the IDW side, but what they are doing with the Godzilla creatures. All right, let me put it this way. What they're doing with the Power Ranger characters and what he is capable of doing with Godzilla creatures, and I'm trying so hard to not to give stuff away.
Yeah, I know I have the mute button ready here.
Is fan freaking tastic. The last panel of this book, like I thought it was great going through the whole book. The little things they do, like you're gonna jet right through it. And that is a shout out to Rich because I did give him a hint of why he needs to be reading this book right now. But when you see what happens on that last panel, even I had a mic drop moment. Like I didn't see that coming, and I know Rangers, and you know, I was surprised. So cheers to Cullen Bunn. He is writing for IDW, this Power Ranger side, and I didn't know I needed it. I still love you, Ryan, but Cullen is doing an amazing job.
Yes, a series is here, nothing but rave reviews about that, and rightfully so. For my pick, well, it's one out at the digital shops this week.
What? Is it in your wheelhouse? So tell us it's in your
Oh
wheelhouse.
man, yeah.
It's in my wheelhouse. Hardstyle Juice #2, Clay McCormick, Ricardo Lopez Ortiz. This is one of my favorite series out right now. Excellent first issue. If you like a little bit of mystery and pro wrestling and a great story behind it involving some family drama, this is your book. This is just top level stuff. And like I say, coming off the heels of a very, very strong first issue, this is one that definitely you want to make sure you go check out on Comixology Originals right now. And then, fingers crossed it's coming into print. But this series, like right now, 2 issues in, I'm just absolutely blown away by it. And this has something, even if you're not, a diehard pro wrestling fan like yours truly, you can still find a lot of things to love about this. The art is great. The writing is on point. There is just so much to dive into on this. Comixology Originals always does great work. So definitely want to make sure about mentioning that. And then, like we say, every 9 a.m. on Wednesday, it is New Comic Book Day reviews dropping left and right. You see the QR code on screen. You definitely want to make sure you hit that. And, I can see what everybody's writing at the bullpen. We've got a whole loaded lineup of books ready to go. And it's going to be a great New Comic Book Day at your home of pop culture positivity, Nerd Initiative. So that being said, Lauren, thank you for swinging through. Why don't you let everybody know what's going on with you in Hops Geeks News?
Yes, thank you for having me. I know Matt comes on here more regularly, but right now on Hops Geek News, we are doing all Star Wars all month. However, tomorrow we are actually going live at 7:30 with the Vigilante Vibes podcast to discuss the finale of X-Men 97, because we know we will have a lot of feelings for that. But if you want to catch our pre-recorded podcast, we just dropped our favorite and our least favorite, more so overrated Star Wars characters. And next week we will be talking with Crafted Cores to talk kyber crystals. So we are all Star Wars, but we could not ignore X-Men 97.
Crafted Cores, if you don't know, actually makes kyber crystals that go in your Savvy's lightsabers. So you can get a nice different color kyber crystal. They do a lot of cool things. If you've been to a Mosh Isley or Con to a Comic-Con, they're usually there, and they fit their little kyber crystals in there.
Very nice. Make ones that look like little porgs.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Nice. So they're 10 times better than those ones you have to run out and give your mouse money to because the new parts, second version of them.
Yes. You can get more colors.
If only now I need to find a battery that lasts longer.
Yes.
Yeah, my
battery's dead.
Same.
And then after you check that out too, make sure you're checking out Nerd Initiative, all the Star Wars content that is coming to you by the one and only Matt there, who is bringing a lot of different articles coming out this month too.
Star Wars month, baby, and Acolytes on the horizon. We got hopefully some fun things happening, so stay tuned.
These are the articles you seek.
Yes,
They are.
Tom, why don't you let everybody know what's going on with you?
Well, I started something yesterday here on Nerd Initiative.
Yes, you did.
And I really cannot wait to keep sharing it with you every single Monday night. We're going to be talking TV right here on Nerd Initiative. Specifically, right now, we're going to be talking about Doctor Who. Hey, look at the picture. It's fantastic. It's Who in Review. I hope you come and join us. And then I cannot wait to see who I pass the baton to next, who's going to take the next TV segment after Doctor Who, goes off. I'm definitely going to have one of these fine folks that are on the screen with me. One of these fine folks, whether it's this one or that one or that one, join me as one of my companions, and we're going to talk one of those episodes. So they still got to call dibs on what they want to do.
It was so good.
It really was.
Space Babies or something. I really enjoyed the Beatles episode. My wife and I were all about that Beatles episode and the music and the maestro. Like, you did an excellent job on that episode, Tom. Everybody should definitely make sure they listen to it.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's very, very kind of you. But aside from that, you can always catch me here Tuesdays. And then do we still have a QR code for me at least?
Yes, we do.
It was
We
up
do?
there, man.
Okay.
It was up
Look at
there.
that QR code. Look at that beautiful
Look
QR
at
codes.
that.
We love our QR codes. So you can follow me at Off the Cuff Tom on all the holy social medias. But more importantly, make sure you stick here with Nerd Initiative because I can't wait to keep doing what I'm doing here.
And
Aw,
we
I love you too.
We appreciate it. And for me, everything going on, ODPH, right there, QR codes, like Tom reiterated. We love QR codes here at Nerd Initiative. So click, share, subscribe, do the thing.
Scan.
Yes. However you have to get it into your systems, into your
All of the
smartphones, into your
above.
computers. Make sure that happens. We've got new episodes dropping left and right. And obviously, about Turn a Page, about comic books dropping every Wednesday at 9 a.m. and 15 minutes on the hour. Like I say, new reviews are dropping left and right by the Bullpen, the hardest working team in all of comics
Facts.
reviewing. Seriously, anybody wants to step their game up, let us know. We're here. We take on all contenders. So that being said, I definitely want to plug our guy in the chair who can make it in tonight, and he'll be back returning on Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Wrestling Night Live.
Dropping in from the top rope.
Yes, a lot of wrestling is going to be going on this weekend, so there will be no sleep for Rich, new guy Nick, and yours truly. A lot of shows are coming up, so thank God for coffee. We'll be bringing a ton of content that way. So you definitely want to make sure to do that. And if you're not sure about how to get all that all under one roof, simple. Click on the QR code for nerdinitiative.com and they'll contact you, take you right to you can sign up for the newsletter. You can sign up for, everything going on, put the RSS feed in your system so you don't miss any of the reviews that are dropping by the Bullpen, let alone the Star Wars team, the wrestling team, and more on the way. Trust us. When we said we got something loaded for the re-up, we got something loaded for the re-up. So
Are we getting loaded?
well,
Come on our podcast.
Stay tuned.
We have a new Patreon exclusive episode dropping where we're starting with Madam Web. It's called Sauced One, so we just might be.
Oh, jeez.
I offer myself as tribute.
How many
you're
alcoholic beverages does it take for a movie to be good?
I want no part of that because I don't want to I couldn't even make it. I'm sorry. Well, I'm going to go on a tangent about that. So we'll just say because it's in the contract as well. If you want to go rock some Nerd Initiative merchandise for con season, because trust us, there's a lot of cons that are going to be happening in San Diego, New York, and many more in between. Go support the brand and go get yourself a hat, get yourself a hoodie, a t-shirt.
And it's fun when you see people wearing them. You can be like, hey.
Yeah.
It's our own secret code.
Yes, exactly. Much like they have in the X-Men comics coming out. Yes. If you read that on Free Comic Book Day, you know what I'm talking about.
And marks the spot. Just saying.
Yes. So make sure you go check that out. And like we say, we have a lot of stuff coming at the home of pop culture positivity. So make sure you're following Nerd Initiative on your favorite devices, especially YouTube. And there's the homework assignment. So we just make it very short and very sweet. Make sure you hit that subscribe button wherever you're watching. If you're watching on Twitter, if you're watching on Facebook, you're watching on TikTok, Twitch, wherever. Make sure you hit the subscribe on YouTube because there's exclusive content that only goes there. Make sure you hit that bell icon for notifications so you don't miss it when it goes live. And make sure to tap that thumbs up to let our boss know that you like what you see here at Nerd Initiative. That being said, on behalf of the Bullpen, thank you so much for joining us. We'll definitely be talking X-Men 97 with everybody throughout the week, and we'll end it like we always do here on Turn a Page. When you have a great issue in your hands, such as X-Men 25 from Marvel Entertainment, and you see somebody struggling, find something at the shop, hand yours off to them. Tell them to turn a page. We'll see you guys next week. I'm out.